Is Frieren really that good of a show? I mean, why do people even like it? Is there something special about it or something? To answer those questions, yes. Going into this video, I didn't have any high or low expectations since I know absolutely zip zap nada about this series, but I did have the question on my mind as to why I hear so much about this show. However, I have now seen all of the first season, and that is why today I'll be going through what I really enjoyed about it, and even as far as to going in depth about certain things in hopes of answering the question, why do people love Frieren? If you're new to the channel, I'm Leva, or Dispy, whichever you prefer, and so far on this channel I discuss things like mangas and animes, but I do wish to expand on that later this year with me adding other things into the mix like movies, TV shows, or comics. So if you want to hear my opinions or me discuss certain media that you're into, then please feel free to subscribe for more. And if you wanted anything specific, I happily always read comments that those of you leave for me. Now with that out of the way, let's dive into my experience on this series and answer the question, why do people love Frieren? We start off beyond Journey's End with the show instantly trying to pull on your heartstrings. Frieren and her party succeeded in defeating the Demon King after journeying with each other for 10 entire years. They celebrate and end the journey by watching the Era meteor shower that only happens every 50 years, and end the night agreeing to watch it again together in another 50. Of course, they keep their word and proceed to do so, giving us such a beautiful moment and final look at the heroes together for one last time. Himmel is then revealed to have passed away, but happily surely, and after taking in what's happened, Frieren embarks off on a new journey, one to understand and learn more about humankind, giving us our first reveal to the plot of the series. So far it's been enjoyable and our party was actually super sweet. Even though the series is classified as a shonen manga, it's so completely different from your average story that it's wild. I feel like I can already understand why this series is as big as it is, since it completely breaks an average story's tropes and instead gives us a slower, more fantasy game inspired story rather than just another male main character who has the biggest goal in the verse story. Which, to be fair, is completely fine. I love those stories. But I'm just assuming that that's one of the reasons why Frieren is as popular as it is. Simply because it's different. It's just so crazy how we, yes, all of us, cried at Heiter's death, regardless of only knowing him for not even 1.5 episodes. I think Heiter tricking Frieren into helping Fern with her magic training was an extremely great choice. Big and little sister stories are always so underrated in this media economy, so you best believe when I saw Frieren was going to be taking in Fern after Heiter's passing, I was very hype about it. My hype aside though, it's also a really good story choice since it gives us a clearer sense of who Frieren is and her personality. Not to mention, it also helps her character with the goal of understanding and learning more about humankind. I think Himmel being the timestamp for Frieren's journey, like how BC and AC exist, is pretty cute and thoughtful of her. I know it's the author's choice to do this so we don't lose track of how long it's been and how much time has passed, but isn't it just way cuter to think that Himmel had that much of an impact on her, that she'll call this new period of her life the Himmel period, where she'll learn more about humans in honor of not learning enough about him? Anyway, their quests are very fun to witness, and even though initially I was honestly kind of annoyed that nothing major was happening, I understood afterwards that it's just not that kind of story. I made the relation to One Piece in a sense that you aren't really watching the series to get to somewhere, because even though that's the main plot point in both tales, it's more a story about the journey there and the experiences our characters had to go through in order to reach that desired place. So while something small like spending an entire episode where Frieren is trying to find a special flower to honor Himmel may seem bad on the surface, once you look at it through a different scope, you realize that this is what the series is about. The actions of our characters and their tribulations in order to complete their wish, which simultaneously also improves their character in the process. The magic in this series is so entertaining to witness, but I feel so incredibly bad for anybody who's on the wrong side of Zoltrak. I like that Stark isn't arrogant, and I like that he fits well with Fern and Frieren's relationship. I think the fact that he doubts himself, even though he was trained by Aizen, says a lot about his character. And surely enough, once we see his backstory, we know precisely why. Now see, me personally, I'm a sucker for brotherly emotional moments, so I'm actually a really big fan of his entire backstory, even though it's not anything particularly unique or new to me. I'm also an even bigger fan of Frieren as of episode 9 and way more invested in the journey to reach Aurelie than I initially was. But I don't want to call it a slow burn because I think I'm just more adjusted to faster paced stories. Regardless of that fact, I inevitably was locked in for the ride. And I'm also excited for future conflicts as well, since I'm not gonna lie, everybody they faced so far has pretty much been fodder compared to our delightful trio. So I am pretty excited of seeing actual fear-inducing foes down the line that could give our ever so joyous trio some belt to ass. I can totally see how this could be people's comfort show as well, since it's just so relaxing and easy to watch. But that doesn't mean I'm saying it's baby food either. On the contrary, I'm praising it for being its own thing and giving a sense of comfort when watching, due to it being a heavily down-to-earth story, apart from the magic aspect, of course. Beyond Journey's End has its own sense of humor, and I'd go as far as saying it doesn't do the whole loud equals funny trope either. I'll give praise where it's due over the simple fact that this series, from what I've seen so far, has no fan service, like, at all. Like, yes, of course, there was a whole looking through clothes spell and the potion that takes off clothing, but has either ever gone the full way and made it a full fan service moment? No! So I'll give credit where credit's due and give the author their flowers for truly breaking the anime narrative that every story has some characters solely meant to be eye candy. I won't lie though, they threw me for a whole loop with Sign's character, and even though he went on his own way in hopes of finding Gorilla, I do hope we end up seeing him again after his own journey. And maybe he even ends up joining Frieren and her party as well. At least that's what I hope. I know I've already spoken about it once, but I'm becoming a really big fan of Frieren as of this point in the story. At first she was extremely closed off, but after going through so much with Fern and now Stark, we can see that she has grown to be so much more comfortable and open with her companions. It's such a very small subtle touch that I'm not sure most people would actually pick up on, unless they looked back and saw how closed off she was initially. I'd also like to touch more on the fact that these small jobs or side quests they accomplished along the way are so fun to watch. Like, instead of acting like some sort of filler or to stop our main characters from getting into action, on the contrary, those scenes rather serve to push the story and our characters forward, giving us an even deeper dive into the nature of our characters and how they act and what they say, and showing off how beautiful the world they live in truly is. I haven't even mentioned it yet, but I love everybody's character designs. Apart from Frieren, everyone is human, yes, but the colors of clothing on our characters hold so much weight to who they each are. I'm not really sure how to explain it, but it just suits each of them so uniquely, even though the clothes itself aren't anything special per se. With all that being said, we've reached the halfway point to season 1, and unfortunately that means it's time to start the next section of this wonderful, intriguing story. But before I do, I'd just quickly like to say, if you're enjoying my experience of Frieren and what I have to say, I'll gladly appreciate it if any of you choose to leave a like on the video. And if you like this type of content where it's me talking, discussing media, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed as well. I'm definitely a smaller channel, but it's clear based off my last 2 videos that there's a market for content like this, so I will absolutely continue doing it, and I hope you tag along for the journey as well. We make it to the second core of season 1, where Frieren and Fern are set on taking the first class mage exam, since the Northern Plateau requires permission and a first class mage in order to enter those areas. I know I sound like a broken record, and I'll say it again for the 4th video in a row. It's seriously hilarious how shonen animes seem to always have tournament arcs. Don't get me wrong, I'm not nitpicking here. I'll gladly take a tournament arc every chance I get. At this point, I anticipate them, but I'm just pointing out. It's funny. During the first class mage exam, I found myself resonating with Werbel way more than Stark, even though he's not in this arc. I know, I get it. Even though I'd only recently just been introduced to him, I like and appreciate Stark. I like the things Stark has to say, but I think Werbel's backstory, just being that he's a poser for a girl he liked, resonates with me a little more than Stark's come-up story about self-doubt. I also mostly like everybody they've shown to us during this arc as well, but Werbel is definitely a standout. Era and Ubel are interesting characters to me too, since I'm a fan of the bloodlusted types, but also caring companions. As of episode 21, I'm so in love with the pace this story is moving at, because even though I've grown accustomed to this series' pacing, I do think that a quicker pace does help for the type of story currently being told. I'm also a big fan of Frieren having less flashbacks about her days with Himmel every other time she speaks. It's a great detail story-wise because it shows she doesn't need to pull on a memory to remember something that'll help her in terms of personality or strength. It also shows how far she's come and that she's extremely capable of tackling her own situations now whenever she needs to. Continuing off what I said, I get my point proven immediately with Frieren's fight against Denkin. It was a short battle, but it wasn't underwhelming in the slightest. The animation was beautiful, obviously, more on that later, but I just mean Frieren wins with ease. Denkin clearly uses a powerful move in order to try and get their fight over with as quickly as possible, and it does nothing to Frieren, proving that she is just that much of a stronger mage than him. I'm glad I'm a much bigger fan of her now because even though she was our protagonist, I really wasn't all that fond of her at the beginning. And I think it may be because even though we learn about her past, I personally feel like something was missing. And it might have been the fact that even though everybody we meet basically claims she's such a gem, her appearance to live up to that title was rarely ever shown outside of a handful of moments. But now we've seen it realized to the point where we can fully comprehend how much of a stronger mage she truly is compared to other powerful foes. Adding on to the glaze though, the show goes to rub it in my face even further by having Frieren destroy the unbreakable defense barrier for the sake of her teammate Kana, so she can be able to use her ability that has to do with water. And let me say, Kana's Reamstroa attack is actually the scariest thing ever if you have a fear of drowning. Regardless of the scary aspect of it, it was extremely cool to see her party actually put in some pain and be useful, given the opportunity to. As much as it may seem like I'm biased towards action-based content, I really do like slice-of-life content just as much. I think episode 22 served its purpose in giving our exam characters even more personality and fun moments, even though it nearly had nothing to do with the arc itself that's about like exams and stuff, the magic and stuff. I'd never describe anything like that as filler though, and if others do, I think they've missed the point entirely, unfortunately. A bit of Fern glaze is deserved. I'll admit, I am so very extremely thankful that Fern is truly her own character and not a plot device so Frieren can learn more about humanity. It can sometimes feel that way, and then you have moments like in the third exam phase where Fern notices something that nobody else did, and it easily erases the vibe that Fern serves no purpose besides just being another character, so I'm thankful for that. Episode 25 was glorious. I am just loving the storytelling in this arc. I care about mostly every character as well, and what they have to say and add to the conversations or to the plot. Recently as well, I find myself not as annoyed with the flashbacks as I was prior, but it's still funny how it can go from our crew to remember when I was with my party defeating that one creature. I understand its purpose and why it's being shown to us obviously, but it's just not that necessary in my opinion, because just mentioning it instead of being given a whole sequence would be enough for me. Frieren's flashback showing us her moment with Seti about reading Flamma's will was so beautiful and such a nice touch to a character that already had my respect, while also giving some personality to Seti as well in the process. As for episode 26, I'm not sure if I was as fond of that episode as I would have liked, and I'm not sure if that's a hot take or anything, but I have my reasons for finding it less of a perfect episode than episode 25, you know? What I will praise though is that everybody I cared about succeeded in the second trial, and that was one of the main things I was happier about since I really am a fan of like 98% of the characters in this arc. Fern standing her ground later on against Teddy, with the end result being that she still gets passed to be a first-class mage, is so deserved that I almost jumped for joy when it happened. Even though a lot of characters didn't manage to pass the third phase, I'm at least thankful a good portion of the more deserving characters did end up passing. It's a shame not all of them could pass, but I understand. The season finale definitely left me wanting more, which in this case isn't a bad thing. I haven't read the manga or anything related to that, so if the story is over already, like it's concluded, if somebody could let me know down below, that'd be very nice. Also, thankfully, I haven't been spoiled yet about anything in the series either. I've seen the Frieren neck meme, which was funny, and obviously I've seen people cosplay Frieren and Frieren characters, but I just haven't had the privilege yet to come across spoilers, thankfully. Now, with my experience being done and out of the way, let's answer the question of why do people love Frieren. I do think this show is extremely fun at the bare minimum, but if I were to go in depth about it, I'd say it's a great change of pace. It'll test your TikTok and Twitter-paced brains to the point where it could seem so boring, but it's just giving you a unique experience instead of shoving everything in your face all at once. It's a journey, and it takes a second to find its footing, but once you're hooked, then you can't help but wonder what the next move is and what they'll come across. Again, I'll relate it to One Piece in a sense that you're basically tagging along for a journey, with you never knowing what'll happen next. It's fun, the characters are for the most part all different with different aspirations to one another. If you want a shonen that feels nothing like your average shonen, this is the show for you. If you like games like God of War, Elden Ring, and want an anime with the same quest vibe, this is the show for you. If you want an easy show to put on in the back while you're making some food or doing some chores, this is the show for you. I'm only assuming here, so tell me why you like it in the comments below, but if I had to guess why people love this show and praise it so highly, is because altogether, it's just a very different experience compared to the media that's popular everywhere nowadays. Jujutsu Kaisen, for example, just off the top of my head, is extremely popular but has dark themes. People disliked how Marvel had too much comedy. Boom, now they tried darker themes. I guess what I'm trying to say is you tend to see a lot of similarities in content nowadays, and Frieren is a completely different experience. I'd go as far as saying it deserves the praise it gets because it's so unique and fun. I don't even think it's necessary to bring it up if you already saw the series, but in case you haven't, just know this show's animation is crazy. Most modern clips I see all have great animation in them, but this show's cuts are crazy, and having Yutsupon and other insane names so early on in the series really set the standard for the show like crazy, and they ended up living up to those standards, which is even crazier. So many great moments, and I don't want to showcase them all here because quite frankly there's a lot, but you can trust my word when I tell you you'll be visually satisfied at the bare minimum while watching this show. I won't be watching season 2 yet. For now, my plan is to make another video reviewing season 2 altogether once the season is completed, but of course that all is depending on how good this video does, because at the end of the day, if this only gets 15 views, I think it's better to experiment with something else rather than to try again with the same thing. But that's just my mentality on it right now. Could change, could not. We'll see how this video does. Of course, let me know in the comments below why you like Frieren Beyond Journey's End, or if this video somehow got you to want to try the series out for yourself. If you've enjoyed this video, let me know down below, as I will be reading comments, and it does help push my video out to more people. The algorithm likes it, so if you wanted me to review it or discuss another topic altogether, then go ahead and let me know down below. This video was pretty exciting for me to make since I seriously knew nothing about this series before starting it, so it was all such a good experience for me. This video was originally going to be a Fire Force review instead too, since the third and final season is currently releasing, so if you'd still want to see that video happen, let me know in the comments below if I should still go through with making it or not. Or if you'd prefer me to discuss something else, then let me know that too. In any case, I hope you consider dropping a like and possibly subscribing as well. My current goal is 150 subscribers, but if we shot for 200, I wouldn't be mad at that outcome. I'm just saying. Obviously, I appreciate all the support I can get. I love doing this. It's genuinely fun for me, and I'll continue to keep doing it thanks to the support I've already been getting, and will only keep progressing from here. With all that being said though, this was Lava answering the question, why do people love Frieren? No, I don't know what you mean. It could be me.